Alright, so my last couple of videos have been pretty ranty. Dear God, I am pale normally. So I decided it'd be fun for me to take some time and talk about something I really like. Specifically, one of my favorite superheroes. That's right. We are talking about Green Lantern tonight. Just kidding. We're doing Superman. So yeah, Superman is one of my favorite characters in the DC universe and just comic books as a whole. Uh, and he's a character that gets a bad rap from a lot of people. You've all heard it. Oh, Superman, he's so boring. He's so overpowered. Oh, if anyone really had that power, they'd go around killing people and stealing money. It's so unrealistic. That last one I think says more about the people who believe that than the Superman character. So, anyways, I love Superman. I love how ridiculous his powers are. I love how goody he is. He's just a wonderful, wonderful character. So this is going to be really rambly and disjointed. In other news, water is wet and teenagers suck. So again, Superman is one of my favorite characters from DC Comics. Uh, and he means a lot to me. Let's let me show you. Let's show you something. Okay, where? Ah, here it is. That's the ticket. Sorry about that, folks. Just had to get something. Okay, we're good. So this is my copy of All Star Superman, and it is quite possibly my favorite comic of all time. And this is the reason I'm a Superman fan. I mean, I never hated the character beforehand. Liked him in his own animated series and the Justice League animated series and all the comics I'd read up to that point. But he was never one of my favorites until I read this. So for those who don't know, what the All Star line was something DC attempted. Oh God, when was this? Oh God, when was this written? 2000, 2006, 2007, somewhere around that time. I don't remember. At the time, I wasn't reading comics as they came out. I was doing trade paperbacks mainly. Just money. That's what it always comes down to, isn't it? Money. So I read this actually a few years after it came out. Just didn't read it at the time. But anyways, All Star Superman. The All Star line was an attempt by DC. The idea of which was they'd take some of the most famous creators in comics, most of whom had some sort of connection to the character, and they were given 10 to 12 issues. I think All Star came in at 12, and same Batman, and they were basically told no continuity, it's its own thing. just take these characters and boil them down to their most essential elements and tell the best story you can. Try and tell a story that encapsulates why these characters are so amazing, why they're so loved, and why they've lasted for decades. Sadly, only two of them were ever made. All Star Superman, which is amazing and one of my favorite comics, if not my favorite. Definitely top three. New Frontier. New Frontier is up there along with God, I can't remember the name of it, but the book that the storyline that brought the Justice Society back in modern comics. It's my favorite superhero team. So yeah, the idea was basically, you don't have to, you're not shackled by continuity. Just tell a story that just encapsulates why these characters are so awesome. Sadly, only two were made. This and All Star Batman and Robin, which to date has not finished. They made 10 issues and then just kind of stopped. For the best of my mind, it wasn't good. Um, Frank Miller has not written anything good in a long time. And All Star was not a change. Which, it's a shame because they were planning to do All Star Wonder Woman and All Star Batgirl. Which, from what I've heard, the preliminary scripts had been written and were very good, but just the critical backlash on Batman and Robin kind of scared DC off. Anyways, we're getting sidetracked. This seems like a good place to start because again, the idea was to showcase everything that's wonderful about the character, and this does it. This does it. It shows. It goes through It goes through the gambit of everything. The kind of over the top, absurd, epic stories that you can only tell with someone who's this powerful. Just the coolness of seeing, a guy who can fly and, just do all these amazing things. Like, look at this image. Like, just that. A guy flying and how beautiful and cool that is. And, just they managed to get so many great things done in just such a short time. Look at this, four panels, and they do his entire origin story. Doomed planet, desperate scientists, last hope, kindly couple. That is amazing. That is just. It's Moses and the Bulrushes, but it's just wonderful. So for those who don't know the plot, very briefly, in the midst of saving a space station, Superman is bombarded with a lethal amount of solar rays. He's basically he's dying, and it's the last days of Superman. For the first part, his powers are immensely picked up. So as part of it, he tells Lois who he is, and gives her powers for 24 hours, and they spend time together. Then, just ends up doing his, the great labors of Superman. He does all these amazing things. And then Lex Luthor decides astronauts from Krypton show up while he's gone for a while and kind of are assholes and try and take over the world. He eventually stops them and shows them kindness. Again, just getting at the core of the character. He cares about everyone. There's a scene from regular comics where it's Superman kind of just looking at the world. It's Superman and Alan Scott, the first Green Lantern, two of the most powerful characters in DC at the time. Just looking at the world from space, and it's just them talking about just how amazing people are, and it's and how wonderful they are, and it's just really great, really great. And at the climax of the story, this is all very Cliff Notes. Like read the book to get it. There was an animated movie that was pretty good. I find the comic better personally. And at the end, Lex has basically done something to give himself Superman's powers, including the visions, and he sees the world as Superman does, that we're all connected, and all we got is each other. And it's and he realizes how awful he is. And then Superman gives up his dies to reignite the sun, basically, after he got to a near-death experience and went to basically heaven, and is told, you have a choice. You can stay here and live in paradise, or you can turn and face evil one more time. And Superman, Clark Kent, decides to go back and die permanently for the sake of others. Because that's what Superman's about. That's really, when you get down to it, it's about using your skills, using your abilities to serve others and try and make the world better. But that's not why I became such a. This made me a fan of the Superman character. A little bit of context: when I first read this, I was 20 years old and I was miserable. I was at St. FX. It was a bad environment for me. I was depressed, basically. Just kind of felt like I was worthless. And there's a scene in here where just while Clark's running around doing all these amazing things, you hear snippets of a conversation, just someone saying, wait, I'll be there, and eventually it's revealed what it is. It's a young girl, a teenager, who's about to commit suicide, and the person on the phone was her psychiatrist, who's begging her to wait. And Superman, in the midst of all these world-shattering, important events, comes to something that most people would probably say doesn't matter all that much in comparison to these world-shattering events. One suicidal girl, but Clark doesn't think that way. She's a person, and she matters. We all matter. Everyone's important. And he comes to her, and he just it's some very briefly. Some would probably argue insultingly briefly, but he just tells her, I want to. Where is it in here? Because I don't want to paraphrase this, because this really meant a lot to me at the time, and still. So I think it's about middle of the book. Yeah, no, that's the Bizarro stuff. God, where? Yeah, where is it? I'm sorry, folks. But basically, he hugs her and he tells her she's much stronger than she thinks she is, and that's it. That sheer amount of faith Clark has in people that they can rise above their own weaknesses and be braver and kinder and more amazing than they ever thought possible is part of it. And just the fact that, he cares this much about everyone that he goes to this girl. Um, there's a quote from, I want to say Mark Waid. Uh, I believe it was Mark Waid that, on why he doesn't buy into the whole Superman's a god thing. Uh, Superman's not a god. Gods gain strength from their beliefs from the beliefs of their followers. Superman gets his strength from his belief in us. That people can be good and kind and decent and create such a better world than we have. And that's kind of the big message of Superman in a lot of ways. If we all just dedicate ourselves to helping each other, what a better world we make. It's such a simple thing, but it's so beautiful and so powerful. So yeah, this is how I became a fan of Superman. That one scene, that this amazing, powerful person would take time out of important matters to come save a single person, come talk to a single person who just needs a little love and support. It's just it's beautiful. That's what it comes down to. It is beautiful, and it means a lot to me. So yeah, that's kind of, and ever since then, I love the character. Um, there's a quote from a book. There's a lot bit in a book with by Scott Snyder, Superman Unchained. That it's from Lex Luthor, where he says, he realizes the truth of Superman. He's not some god. He's not some divine light to show us the way, despite what the Christopher Reeve movie says. If you want to get down to it, Superman's a guy. He's just a guy trying to figure it out like we are, and who just wants to use what he's got to help people. And that's why I don't get the people who say Superman's not relatable. He's a kid from a small town who goes to the big city and tries to figure out who he is and make the world a better place. That's the most relatable story there is, or at least it should be. Someone who just wants to help people. So I'm gonna, after that long rant on just how much I love All Star Superman and how much it meant to me, I'm just gonna kind of briefly go through some of the major arguments I see about why Superman sucks, why people tend to say they dislike him, and give kind of my rebuttals against it. And then I'll just do kind of wrap up speech. So first one I always get is Superman's overpowered. Yes, by some standards you could say that. If Superman existed in the Marvel universe, yes, he'd be totally overpowered. If he existed here, he'd be totally overpowered. But Superman lives in the DC universe. there are numerous superheroes who can go toe to toe with it. Characters who can go toe to toe with him. Off the top of my head, Darkseid, Bizarro, Brainiac, Mongul. I'm never sure to pronounce his name. Lobo, Maxima, Lex Luthor, who is a normal guy if brilliant, and he goes toe to toe with Superman. On the hero side, Wonder Woman, Captain Atom, Captain Marvel, Black Adam, pretty much any magic user in the DC universe. Aquaman's been summoned to put up a good fight against him. Martian Manhunter has all his powers plus telepathy and shapeshifting. The Flash, who is, with the introduction of the Speed Force, is arguably the most overpowered character in DC. Speed Force is basically just a fuck you, I win button at this point. Green Lanterns, Red Lanterns, pretty much any of the Lantern Corps can give a good fight, if not beat him outright. The Anti-Monitor. He lives in a world of superpowered beings. Many of whom are immensely powerful. Many of whom are more powerful than him, arguably. I mean, Wonder Woman is his equal in strength, speed, and is a highly skilled combatant, has magical weaponry, and really no weaknesses outside of, blunt force trauma. Doomsday fucking killed him. I actually really like the Death and Return of Superman arcs. They actually do a lot of. I'll talk about that later. I'll be talking about that in the ending speech. Yeah. So it's a question of scale. Within the scales of the DC universe, Supes fits right in. Moving on. Superman's boring. He's such a goody-goody. He's a superhero. Okay? Being a good person is kind of part and parcel. And this is a guy who flies around and fights, giant robots and monsters. How is that boring? No internal conflicts? Bullshit. The ongoing question of whether he's doing too much, of what is doing too much and too little to help people with his powers. If he does too much, he's coddling the human race. He's infantilizing them, and he's going to slow down their progress, if not end it altogether. If he doesn't do enough, he's letting people die or letting horrible things happen that he could prevent. The fact that, for all his power, he can't do nearly as much good as he wants to do. Changing the course of mighty rivers is one thing. Dealing with economic and social and political factors that cause poverty, totally different. And that is a constant source of heartbreak for him. I've never... Has he had bad runs or moments or stories that are boring? Yeah. Every long-running character has that. It's just part of the dangers of the way comic books are run. Sometimes you get a bad writer. Chuck Austen. Fucking hate his run on it. Honestly, much as I love him, Jeff Johns' run on the title wasn't good. Same with Grant Morrison's run on the regular title, which is weird considering, he made me a fan, but hey, nobody's perfect. Yeah, so boring, yeah, in the hands of the wrong writer. But that happens to everybody. Batman's had bad runs. Oh god, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman has had I love Wonder Woman, but man, has he had a lot of bad runs. God, the Jodie Pickold Piccoult. I think she writes chick lit novels or something. I don't know. I read some of her Wonder Woman stuff and it's awful, and that's really all I know about her. Yeah. Let's see, what are some other ones? He's so unrealistic. If a real person had this level of power, they would not spend their time trying to help people. They'd be robbing banks and living it up like a fucking king. I hate this argument. I really, really hate this argument. Cause here's the thought process behind it. Because generally when people say this, they want to make Superman more mature and adult. When the fuck did being a good, kind, decent person who just wants to help people and make the world be a better place turn into something, that we're supposed to grow out of? Some other people like that who, given power, would be assholes? Yes, but good people exist. And honestly, my opinion, my experience, the good people outweigh the bad. Like, by a lot. I don't know, maybe I've just been lucky in that regard, and that's, coding my things. And even so, maybe, because I will fully admit, Superman is an ideal. And that's kind of the point. See, the big difference is with DC and Marvel, at least how they started, is kind of a philosophical approach to their heroes. Marvel creates characters you can relate to, primarily. Spider-Man with his money troubles, difficulty balancing his responsibilities, his tendency to make deals with Satan. Yes, I'm still bitter about One More Day. What of it? But, that's the idea. These are real people in real situations. That's not to say you can't look up to characters in Marvel, Captain America. They're all admirable. They're still heroes, but that's kind of the thought process. We want to make them people you can relate to. DC, on the other hand, tries to make characters you can look up to, characters you can aspire to be like. And neither is right or wrong. They're just different approaches to it. And, DC's got their share of relatable characters too. This is just how they started. One of Superman's nicknames, because, back during like the Gold and Silver Age, everybody had nicknames. Cape Crusader, Dark Knight Detective, Man of Steel, Princess of Power, the Scarlet Speedster, Man Without Fear, Hal Jordan. Like everybody had pretty much everybody had some kind of nickname. And one of his that doesn't get used quite as much anymore is the Man of Superman, the Man of Tomorrow. And with the whole, him being good and decent and kind, that's kind of the point. Superman's what we can aspire to. Superman is supposed to represent the kindness and compassion humanity is capable of if we dedicate ourselves to the betterment of each other. We can't fly, we can't punch a hole through a building, but we can take whatever talents or skills we have, or even just our time, and try and make the world a better place for people. And that's what Superman represents, that ability of us to be good and kind and to help people. So people make this criticism, I think just don't understand the character, really. Okay, let's end on kind of a funny one. The whole the underwear on the outside thing. Okay, first of all, it's not underwear. It's meant to look like a wrestling or a strongman outfit, and emphasize power. Secondly, you take that away, the color balance of the suit is all off. It's too much blue. Like, the original Superman outfit is one of the best designed costumes in comics. That whole one's just like, Well, some people might think that looks silly, and I can't look silly. I'm adult. I'd like to use a C.S. Lewis quote as a rebuttal to that. When I became a man, I put away childish things, including the fear of childlessness and the desire to be very, very grown up. It's comic books. They're silly. Deal with it. So those are the kind of the big arguments I see and why I disagree with them. And I kind of alluded to this, but here's why I love Superman. He's an ideal. He's an ideal and a representation of what we're capable of if we dedicate ourselves to helping other people. He's kind, decent, selfless, loving, and how can you not love someone who's that good? I've never gotten that. Like that to me is just so amazing and wonderful. Um, I mentioned the death and return of Superman. Back in the '90s, they killed him off as partly as, and it was a big deal. Because at the time, characters didn't get killed off, at least nowhere near as often as they do now. So people, especially not big characters, so people weren't really as jaded about it as we are now. So it was like a period of mourning. Like people had like funeral commemorative bands they'd wear. Like it was like a national day of mourning. It was like people mourned like in real life, which is just like for all the jokes we have about him. That's how powerful he is. Superman's an iconic part of American mythology and kind of North American mythology. I mean, I'm Canadian, uh, and if you don't like him, you got to admit the DC universe just wouldn't be the same without Superman. But within the universe, one of the great things about Superman is he inspires people to be better. And he does that in real life too, at least for me. Like I try and emulate that level of kindness to people as best I can. I fail, a lot because you know I'm human. I'm not being written to be a way. But the universe, one of my favorite bits is after Superman dies, people trying to fill his shoes, and all four of the super powered characters are fall short in certain ways. But one of the people who I think kind of is the most inspiring is a supporting character within within the cast of Superman called Bibbo Bibowski. He's a retired boxer, kind of just a working class guy who looked up to Superman, and he decides that with Superman gone, people need to live up to his example, need to try and do the work he did in helping people. But he's just a guy. But he owns a bar, so Bibbo puts on a Superman shirt and gets to making sandwiches. And he goes around and he delivers food to the homeless and the poor and just little bits of good that we all can aspire to. And he apologizes to people because it's not enough. Superman would have done so much more. But that's within you and without universe. That's what Superman is. He's a he's a he's a paragon. He's a ideal of kindness and decency that we can all exhibit if we just tried. And that's why I love him, and that is why Superman's awesome. Here's to the man of tomorrow, and an answer to the question of what's so funny about truth, justice, and the American way. Absolutely nothing. Superman rocks. Take care, folks.